Episode 78 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the Interpretation Station. And we've got a very special guest with us today on the show. This is a special episode for my Russian-speaking viewers, whether you're Russian C is going into English A or vice versa. We've got the man to lead you, though, through this text, and he is, in fact, our guest is pretty much a double A, in fact, English-Russian, so he's just the guy we're after. We have with us today, ladies and gentlemen, a colleague of mine, 4 years, pretty much, and we see a lot of each other at work, probably too much, maybe. The man I've got with me today is Mr. Andrei Dmitrichev. Hello, Andrei.
Hello, Roland, and thank you for that introduction. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to hear it. Lovely. I wanted,
yeah,
Andrei, if you could just introduce
for
yourself. Just tell our viewers, tell the Interpretation Station viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been working as a staff interpreter with the United Nations since 2003. Before that, I freelanced for a few years, and before that, I had a totally different life, starting with a foreign service, then working in different UN organizations, including UNHCR, UNCTAD, and I had a brief stint with the OECD, all of that, not as an interpreter. And then I decided to choose freedom, and I became an interpreter. So there you go.
So as I said, don't let Andrei's name fool you. So he works in the English booth. He's a Russian A, English A. So that's don't let that fool you.
I'm American.
He's American. Andrei's a goddamn American.
Oh my God.
Goddamn.
I'm
now
Swiss
we
too.
have, as I say,
anyway.
We've been to a lot of interesting places together, haven't we, Andrei? When I first came to work in Geneva, geez, we went to all these places like, we kept on going to Bonn together. We went, did we go to Kazakhstan together?
No, we went to Brussels together.
Brussels, I don't know if Brussels can really be described as that interesting, but anyway.
It was very interesting.
That was a good meet. It was a good mission.
Yeah, it was good.
A good mission. Anyway, so Andrei has picked for us a text today. I think we did this meeting. I beg your pardon. He did this meeting himself. I wasn't there. So just to give you a bit of background, guys. So the Human Rights Council is having a big, long 7 week. How many weeks is this session they're on currently?
Well, the current one was 3.5 weeks.
Have they finished?
Yeah, they finished yesterday.
Oh, they finished. You see, I'm on holiday, so I must admit I don't really keep that close a track of what's going on back in Geneva. But they must just have finished, because I was doing a few meetings of it just before I left.
Yeah, just yesterday we finished them off.
Andrew, you finished them off. Excellent, excellent. So the text that Andrei has picked for us today is, as you can see on the screen, it was let's have a look. It was a statement by Russia, 47th session, Human Rights Council. Dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Execution. What was the exact name of it?
Yeah, you're
right.
right.
What was the exact name of the rapporteur? Do you happen to remember? Okay, so the text that Andrei picked for us was a statement by Russia. It was at a meeting. It was following the presentation of the report by the Special Rapporteur on. Now, this is a long name, as you can see in the Russian. So in English, the actual translation of it is the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial. So that's a внесудебных заказных, extrajudicial, summary, or arbitrary executions. So summary being без надлежащего судебного разбирательства, and arbitrary произвольных. казнях. So it's a lot simpler actually in English. It's a real word sandwich in the Russian, but fortunately going into English, it's a bit more straightforward. And in fact, as you'll see here, the Russians, it's mainly to do with the situation in Ukraine. So the Russians often, but the Russians and the Ukrainians, they take every opportunity they can to have a few digs at each other. Doesn't matter the subject
Which
matter.
is so unfortunate, of course, but that's the way it is.
And that's it. Doesn't matter what the subject matter is. It can be about sexual and reproductive health, and they'll still find a way of having a quick, just dig at each other. And this is a good example. So this has got quite a lot of juicy, it's got some juicy vocabulary in it, this one, as you will see.
Yeah, I think it's very good. It reflects the state of affairs between the two countries, and also it is a relatively typical statement made by Russia in the Human Rights Council, whether it concerns Ukraine or any other subject matter.
And in fact, this sort of language they use about in Ukraine, they'll use it not just in the Human Rights Council. This kind of thing they'll talk about in the Security Council, in the General Assembly, wherever they get a chance.
It's the style that Russia uses these days, let's say, or last several years.
Okay, well, let's without any further ado, let's get cracking with the statement. Let's see what so Andrei's basically looked at what he's sort of deems to be the most interesting parts of this, the most interesting vocab. So I'm going to let Andrei lead the way. So in the first paragraph, Andrei, tell me what you noted here and why.
Well, just again, as usual with Russia, if you have time, and obviously I did have time to look at this text, especially after the fact, it's much easier because you can flip the sentence around, you can make it sound nice in English. Very often they speak very fast, just like everybody else in the Human Rights Council, so you may not have that luxury. Again, because that's the trick. Very often,
I mean, what we want to know here is how, because this is always delivered fast, isn't it? So how are you going to approach this sort of going, what sort of shortcuts can you take?
Well, again, the main shortcut, of course, was that I did have the text before Russia made the statement and I had time to look at it. So I tried to make it sound nice in English. So, for example, as you see, the first sentence begins with, in Russia, everyone is concerned. So you can get away with that, but it doesn't sound really nice in English. So what I did is obviously something that I find logical and hopefully it sounds nice. I said people in Russia are concerned.
Okay, that's interesting. You put in the people. What I was going to say is what I usually do in that, when I hear Vrasi, and then, okay, I'll be spokojny, I tend to just say Russia is particularly concerned. I turn the locative, Vrasi, I just make it the subject and then carry on. I think that it's called nominalization, I believe is the technique. So that's what
that is a sophisticated term for something that seems to be very simple. But I think in this particular case, the fact that they are saying Vrasi in Russia, it would be good to say people, because when you say Russia, Russia means usually the authorities or the government. Now, in this particular context, I think they're actually saying, and you have to remember the history of both countries and history that goes way, way back, that the Russian speaker indeed wants to emphasize the fact that it is not the government, people are.
That's very
concerned.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting
People
nuance.
And it's true, I was in Russia a couple of times after the events in Kiev and after Crimea, and I have to say that this is a very painful issue for many Russians, everything that involves Ukraine. So it's not just, we're going to avoid politics here, but it's not just about, who's on which side. It is really something that a lot of people care about, and I think they're quite upset by what's going on. So
Okay.
I would say people in Russia, because that's what I think the speaker is trying to emphasize. So it's not just the authorities.
It's not just the authority, it's everyone.
But
it's the people.
basically everyone.
That is a
which
very
in the end
interesting
may not be
nuance.
true.
That's a very interesting nuance. There you go. That's why we've brought the native speaker in to give us that little nuance. Now, what else have we got here in the first paragraph? A couple of other things that you've highlighted there.
Well, yes, I highlighted some words that are often used by Russians, like вопиющая ситуация, which I would interpret as outrageous.
I like that. I usually, the first word that springs to mind for me there was is like glaring for whatever reason. That's the first word that comes to mind. But I like that. I think outrageous.
In this particular statement,
outrageous.
And again, in light of the situation that exists now between Russia and Ukraine, I think that you could actually give additional emphasis to what the Russian speaker is trying to say, because here they are basically saying it all. You know, they're really laying into them, aren't they? Yeah, exactly. So if you say outrageous, it'll be fine. Just like with
disgraceful.
The next.
What about disgraceful?
I'm not sure disgraceful. I mean, it can work, but I don't know. I'm not particularly pleased with disgraceful. Okay. It's like, you know, maybe you want to say shameful, but no, I think it's outrageous.
Outrageous.
It's the word. In the end, that's the exact
situation.
Translation of the word. And also, when you move on and you have the Razgul National Radikalov, I think if you have time and if you're not afraid, you can even say orgy of violence.
An orgy, as the Razgul really carries up. It's more than just nasilia. It's like a step up, isn't it, from nasil, just plain old nasilia.
It's just unconstrained violence, you know. So if you really want to convey, I think, the essence of what the speaker is trying to convey, you can easily say orgy of violence. And, we're not used to saying those kind of things over the mic, but I think here it would be very appropriate.
If you have the time, obviously. If you don't have the time and you're sticking to, and you just want to keep up with them, you got to drop some of these things. But
just stick to violence.
Good to get these connotations, these little nuances, as I say. And then what else I liked, interested here, откровенных нацистов. I like this, outright Nazis. Again, there might be a temptation, I think, if you're just doing it very fast, open Nazis, which doesn't really sound very good, but outright is really the word, isn't it?
Doesn't sound very good. Yeah.
No.
Or you just say Nazi.
Blatant Nazis, but I think outright is better.
Yep.
And then we've got these technical казни без надлежащего судебного разбирательства, which is, as we sort of, so this is summary execution. All that is summary execution. This is судебного разбирательства, sometimes due process.
Yes, you can say due process. You know, as you can see in my notes there, I just followed the text and said where executions without due judicial investigation, and then again, a very interesting word, обыденность, at the end of the paragraph. So again, just to finish on that, I did spell it out and say without due judicial investigation or without due process. And again, if it's coming at you fast and you remember the title of the Special Rapporteur.
This is where it helps know the title, doesn't it?
Yes, you say summary, and that's
that's it, finished.
That's very good, and it saves you and saves you from using so many words.
Yeah.
But again, the обыденность is just what's happening on a regular basis. So the way I did it, these executions have long become a regular occurrence.
Right. I was thinking for a couple of alternatives for that as well. So I came up, so have become the norm is a very quick way of sort of rendering that.
Yes, that's very good. Yeah.
Or a slightly longer, have become par for the course. That's for all you golf fans up there. But yeah, I think any one of those options that me and Andrea have given should do the trick, eh?
Yeah, I think your version, when you say just have become the norm, is very good. About the golf course and being on par, I'm not sure most people would understand that, but
well, there is that, but I don't know if the Russians. I don't know if the Russian minions would understand.
Yeah, they probably
not a big sport in Russia, eh?
Yeah, and if the speaker's monitoring, he'll probably say, "I didn't say anything about golf." That's the way they do it.
They probably would as well, wouldn't they? One other thing in this,
it reminds me of a story when a Russian speaker started his sentence and he was monitoring, and he said something very simple. "Я не могу согласиться с этим подходом." And since it was a working group, I interpreted that by saying, "I'm afraid I cannot agree with your approach." And suddenly there's this pause, and the guy says in Russian, "I didn't say I was afraid."
Afraid, God, yeah.
So yes,
they do like to nitpick, don't they?
Я не сказал, что я боюсь.
There was just a couple of very quick things here that in the first paragraph that I thought were just worth noting. Okay, so не устают призывать. They keep urging. So I like to urge for призывать, urging the international community. And then again, a very common phrase in Russian, but sometimes I find it difficult to really sum it up best in English. Обратить самое пристальное внимание. And I end up always saying we need to devote special attention to. And I sort of was thinking,
which
maybe
is fine.
Keep close track of, keep under review, keep very close track of, as something different to say, rather than always.
It sounds a bit like official jargon. So, I would just rather stick to what I have here, not just because I invented, but I think it just sounds more appropriate.
And just tell me, what have you written here?
Yeah, most direct attention.
Direct attention, right.
Yeah, continuously urging the international community to pay most direct attention.
Pay it, yeah. Okay, let's move down onto the next paragraph here. So that here, okay, в ходе массовых беспорядков. So you've gone here for?
During widespread unrest.
Yeah, this is something when they talk about the Ukraine. This is something they will always refer to, this unrest that took place in 2014. Rioting?
Yeah, I think it's the best word for. No, riots is a bit too much because, there was a bit of everything. And I think unrest conveys that. It can cover riots, it can cover clashes, it can just carry, include also non-sanctions and peaceful demonstrations. So it includes everything.
Unrest
riots is a bit limited.
Too strong?
No, it's just limited.
Limited,
riots
okay.
is. It is not incorrect, but I think it limits a bit the scope of what they're trying to cover.
Okay, and then down here. So okay, this is a favorite thing with the Russians. Okay, this expression при попустительстве сотрудников правоохранительных органов, for which you have gone with
the acquiescence.
Okay. The word that always comes to me again with попустительство is like complicity. But yeah, I think,
yes.
Here it's like acquiescence, like the tacit acquiescence. We always talk about that in English, don't we? I think, yeah.
Right. They simply were not getting involved. They basically let these things take place.
Right. Yeah, I think with the acquiescence is a very good way of doing this. Okay, and then what else do we have in this paragraph?
Well, the rest is fairly easy. It's just, to make it sound nice in English, you would have to change the word order in English. So, as I put it here, the extremists set the local trade union building on fire to eliminate the supporters of the federalization of Ukraine hiding there.
Yeah, this seems a long thing.
This
seems a bit of a euphemism. Сторонников федерализации Ukraine. I was thinking maybe you could say the pro-federalist supporters or something like that.
Yeah, that makes it shorter. Yeah.
To cut it down, because as I say, this is the kind of statement that the Russians will tend to rattle off very fast. And then, so yeah, ukrivshis, who are hiding there, right?
And
then,
just make it sound nice in English. You know, we'd set the local building on fire to eliminate people hiding there. You know, so.
And this is a word, it's an unusual word. I mean, okay, собственноручно in the next sentence here. Let me just point to that. Уничтожили. And the first word that came to mind for me, like as you've written this, is single-handedly. The only thing is, to me, in this context, it doesn't sound quite right. Like, because single-handedly is like, for me, it's like when one person or one group of people does all this things by themselves. And I was trying to think of a better solution for that. And I'm trying to think what I came up with.
Interesting point.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Interesting point, but yes, I felt that single-handedly would be okay. You can use the word simply, you know.
They those who tried to flee were simply
were simply eliminated.
They're simply eliminated. That sometimes you have to keep it sometimes the simple answer is actually
keep it simple.
Because somehow in that context, single-handedly doesn't quite work for me. I mean, maybe it works in Russian, but to me in English doesn't quite sound right. And like as you say, they were simply eliminated. It sounds more natural to me somehow in English.
I'm happy with simply. So yeah, and it's again makes simpler to interpret.
Okay, then we've got so произвольных казней. This is arbitrary execution. That's one you need to remember. I mean, this is an issue. I mean, here with this in the context here, you've got the name of the rapporteur, so it's easy to refer to the name of the rapporteur and remember arbitrary execution. But this is again a concept that will get mentioned in many different kind of meetings. So you need to know sort of the idea, what the idea of arbitrary execution is. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph here. What's interesting?
Okay, well, in the next couple of paragraphs, there are not many things that should cause any difficulties.
Just remember, Управление Верховного комиссара ООН по правам человека. Just use the acronym. Particularly if you're in the Human Rights Council, you're entirely within your rights just to go immediately OHCHR, and you get a nice breather. You get a nice long breather as the Russian delegate is reeling off the full name.
That is correct. And in this sentence, it would be nice if you have the time to put the word неоднократно at the end of the sentence, simply saying that this was done on numerous occasions before.
Repeatedly.
Or repeatedly, yes.
I think that's my go-to solution. Whenever I hear неоднократно, I'd say repeatedly. Okay, maybe a quick, for people who are perhaps students or younger, this is a word I remember that would frighten me a little bit initially. Профильный спецдокладчик господин Heinz. What's the best way for doing профильный?
You know, I would just drop it. That's the best. I think in this particular case, it is not really necessary because most people know who the Special Rapporteur Heinz is. If it's causing issues, again, I just don't see the need to add something else.
You don't see the added value of it, right? But there is, I think,
because it is the Special Rapporteur.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing where it's more difficult to skip it in the context of when you talk about профильные агенции ООН, and that's a specific rendering of an English.
Well, then in that particular
which
case, I would use the word relevant.
Right. So, but профильные агенции ООН, so just remember, is the specialized agencies. But so as otherwise, if you're not certain, as Andrei says, relevant, right?
Yeah. And in this case, also, you can use the relevant Special Rapporteur, although it sounds a bit funny.
Right. It sounds a bit strange in English. It's like, is it like?
I think the fact that he's already special covers it.
Right. Okay. Oh, now here was an interesting. Now I've got a good solution for this little expression here. Okay, исчезла из поля зрения спецпроцедуры, and Andrei said.
I just used the exact direct translation of that. Disappeared from the field of view.
Okay, so the idea I had, exciting, radar.
Brilliant.
Disappeared from the radar of special procedures.
That's very good. That sounds very nice. Yes.
Thank you. I'll take a bow. I'll take a bow for that
Bravo.
one. I was quite pleased with myself for that one. You got to keep things on your radar, because I mean, this is the thing.
Well,
the Russians use this again a lot. Polya zrenia, be it of.
Well done.
Yeah, so I thought that was quite a good one. Okay, and then so let's see the final paragraph here. What was interesting for you here?
Listen here.
Восстановить справедливость.
Well, it's restore justice. I think that's
just keep it simple here.
The usual way we do this. And then, взявшись за тему произвольных казней, I put in tackle the issue of arbitrary killings in Ukraine. So
do you think it's too much of a leap? Okay, when you hear восстановить справедливость, is it too much of a leap to say to ensure accountability?
You can. I don't see anything wrong with it, but I'm sure I kind of feel that he is trying to talk about justice rather than.
He wants to hear.
It's more than
the Russian
accountability.
I guess the Russian delegate, if he's listening, is probably wanting to hear the word justice, isn't he?
Yes, that's what I think he's trying to say.
And he is your main client. It's not like with other languages where your main client is the audience. When you're doing the Russians, your number one client, the guy you want to please, is the speaker.
Yes, indeed. Very
whoever
often
might
is
be
the
sitting behind him.
Yes.
And they'll want to hear justice, won't they? They want to hear the word justice.
Yes. Very often they complain, even if they're not right. But then when they give you praise, it feels especially good.
Right. And then, okay, and then this last sentence, was there anything interesting here? He will be a. You want to, this is an example, I think, where you need to turn an active verb into a passive, right? To help you keep with the flow of the sentence.
Yeah, but are you okay with he will be aided?
No, I mean, I think that's how I would have done it. I mean, I would have already said he will be helped in this, but he will be aided. I think I just wanted to show that the little technique that you've used, you haven't waited like to say that whatever it is, his background as a legal expert will help him in this, because that's too dangerous. Leaving that help till the end, you're going to forget it. So you need to just tweak it as you're going along.
You need to
turn that active into a passive so that you can just stick with the flow. He'll be aided in this by his background as a legal expert and by his experience in international work. Okay, so that was a quick run. Well, what we're going to actually do now in conclusion, if Andrei would be so kind, would be just to give us a quick run through of this text, interpreting, just sort of, this again, slightly replicate Booth conditions, and just to show how he would approach this text, see what shortcuts he would make if he was there, Russian speaker, speaking fast. Andrei, would you mind?
Not at all, sir.
Okay,
this
so
is part of the contract, no?
That's what they pay us the big bucks for, isn't it?
Okay, let me see if I can do this. I'm sorry, I have the text here, so I won't be looking at the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know if it matters, but
I don't think it matters. Okay.
Madam President, people in Russia are concerned and continuously urge the international community to pay the most direct attention to the outrageous orgy of violence by national radicals, including outright Nazis in Ukraine, where executions without due judicial investigation have long become a regular occurrence. It is well known that during the widespread unrest in Kiev in January-February 2014, 98 persons were killed. On the 2nd of May of 2014 in Odessa, extremists, with the acquiescence of members of law enforcement agencies, set the local trade union building on fire to eliminate the supporters of the federalization of Ukraine hiding there. Those who tried to flee were simply eliminated. As a result, 48 persons died and more than 240 persons were injured. Citizens of the east of the country are victims of arbitrary executions on a regular basis. Now, these facts have been the subject of concern of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on numerous occasions. In 2015, the Special Rapporteur, Mr. Heinz, spoke in favor of investigating these facts. However, this issue disappeared from the radar of the special procedure. Would like to urge Mr. Tidball-Bins to restore justice and to tackle the issue of arbitrary executions in Ukraine. Sorry, arbitrary killings in Ukraine. We're convinced that he'll be aided in this by his background as a legal expert and by his experience of work in international affairs. Thank you.
It's interesting. You've had for образование, you've gone for background. I guess it's better, isn't it, than his education, his upbringing. That doesn't sound right in this context, does it? Yeah, background seems a better thing to say in English. His background as a legal expert. Okay,
sorry, I had to correct myself because again, the title of the Special Rapporteur, we have to remember that when we do any speech.
Yeah, it's always, you really should, as a matter of course, know exactly what the name of the rapporteur is. Although I don't think even the Russian minions are going to quibble with executions instead of killings. I think it.
It's sort of, I don't know. The official term has been always arbitrary executions. Right. But I see that the Special Rapporteur has a different title.
That they've changed the name. Okay, well there you have it. So that was how Andre would have done that text. Have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed making your guest appearance on the interpretation station, Andre?
I love it, Roland. I think we're going to do it again.
Will you come back? Soon. We can maybe do one next week or a couple of weeks, whenever you're free. Whenever you're free.
Yeah, lovely. No, this was fun.
Okay, and maybe even we can do something from English into Russian.
Absolutely, it'll give the interpretation station a new dimension.
It will really set tongues wagging if we can go into Russian as well. So I think we've got some.
We can do that.
Andre's given us some really useful little nuggets there. Guys, if you've enjoyed the show, usual drill, like, share, please do subscribe. It's the only fee that the interpretation station charges. Free ride from the station. So just press that subscribe button, share it with your pals. And that's pretty much it. Keep following me, keep following the interpretation station on the LinkedIn group. And we'll be back with many more of these kinds of videos for you. Yeah. So, Andre, do you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Yes. Thank you for watching. I hope this was useful and well done, Roland. I really like this thing.
Good. I'm glad. I like to put smiles on people's faces. All right, and next time, Andre, you can gavel us in. Will you gavel us in?
Yeah, I will use this. I don't know what you see. I don't see myself. I'll use the loop.
Just get a cheese board and a hammer, and you're laughing.
I will find something.
You'll find something. Okay, everyone. Yeah. Well, with that,
something original.
All that remains to be said is that episode 78 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train is